Hello, stranger! If you are thinking about buying a MacBook Neo, this video is for you. But honestly, if you are here to justify your extra investment on the M5 chip, this video is especially for you. And I promise this little machine will surprise you. So today we are going to find out if this machine is the right one for you and not with boring benchmarks. This video has timestamps. If this is your first Mac ever, I strongly recommend to watch the whole thing from now on. And why? Because I'm going to guide you through everything. Opening the MacBook, starting up the macOS, installing software, testing the SSD speed, testing the ports, and testing real creative workflows. Quick question for you. Is this your first MacBook ever? Let me know in the comments. And answering the big question, is the MacBook Neo actually enough? Or is it just a browsing and YouTube viewing machine? Let's find out. After you see the classic hello intro, you'll see this country selection screen. This is where you tell the Mac where in the world you live. Now the system will ask, do you want to set up the Mac as a new computer or do you want to import settings from another machine? Since this is probably your first MacBook, I recommend starting fresh. And honestly, even if you have another computer, I recommend starting from scratch to avoid problems. Now it's time for you to set up the written and spoken languages. You can set up this later, don't worry. The next screen is for accessibility options. This is to adapt your Mac to your specific needs. Now you need to select your Wi-Fi network, fill in your password, and wait. Wait a lot. It will feel like it's stuck, but it's not. Just wait. And then you see this software update screen. Here you have two options. Or you update and wait a lot, or you skip and update anytime later. But be aware that if you opt to update, you cannot cancel or skip later. And after waiting for a long time, you will see this Apple logo screen, but you need to wait a little bit longer and, oh boy, redo all the initial steps. Now Apple informs you that if you see this icon, it means that an Apple feature asks to use your personal information. Now it's time to be proud to be a MacBook owner. Here you choose an icon, add your name, and account name first. Account name is important because it will be the name of your user folder. Then choose a password and a hint to remember your password in case you forget it. Wait 3 more minutes. And here you create or add your Apple account to be able to control your devices, payments, software installs, and updates. You can skip this step or do it later. I recommend doing it now. If you already have other Apple devices, the system will send a code to another device. Just paste it in here. Here is the part where everybody reads, right? Well, or you agree, or you can't use your computer. 30 seconds later, now you can enable some services or opt to do it later. You can set up the Apple Intelligence and Touch ID configuration only for the higher specs MacBook Neo. Just place your finger in many different positions on the Touch ID button on the top right side of the keyboard. You can use the Touch ID to install apps, do payments, and wake up your computer the next day. And right after, it asks you to enable payments using the Touch ID. You can skip or enable it. Congratulations! Welcome to the Mac world! To properly test the MacBook Neo, we are installing real professional softwares, not toy apps, not casual tools, real stuff people use to make a living. We are installing Blender for 3D, Final Cut for video editing, Logic Pro for music production, and Davinci Resolve for video editing and color grading. These are applications that can absolutely destroy weak computers. So now it's time to check if MacBook Neo will handle the tasks. And by the way, if you are watching and thinking, wait a minute, is this computer capable of running Blender, modeling, sculpting, rendering? Wait, because we did a comprehensive Blender test and this might surprise you. The MacBook Neo, unlike all other MacBooks, does not have a backlit keyboard. Everyone says this is a huge problem. Now, I'm showing you here the difference between the MacBook Neo keyboard in a situation where I have very little light. Its own screen illuminates the white keys. I honestly find easier to see the keys on the white keyboard than on the black keys of the MacBook Pros. Now I'll confess, I thought the ink had a problem. Look at this, it looks like the ink is failing. It's more accumulated in one place than the other, but it's not. It's finger grease. Testing now the internal SSD speeds. And look at how interesting this is. It allows recording and reading up to 8K video. So this is not its limit. 1.5 gigs per second. On the M4 Air, the speed is more than double. And the M5s, twice or 4 times faster than the M4. And what if I told you it consumes less than a household light bulb? Even your electricity bill will come in lower. Look at that, only 10 watts while exporting an 1 hour and 55 minutes 4K video. This is mind-blowing. And giving a spoiler here, the M5 Pro doing the same tasks is also consuming around 10 to 15 watts. What has Apple been doing? This is very good news for our energy consumption savings. On the other hand, to recharge the battery, it uses more or less 30 to 33 watts. Now let's talk about something that Apple absolutely rules the world, the trackpad. Apple is very famous for the quality of its trackpads. And unlike the others, anywhere you press here, you will apply the same force. It's quite nice. This trackpad is different from those on the Pro models. This is a more simple version, but yet quite impressive. It's very hard to convey through video how well built it is. It's like a premium MacBook Pro, but inside it, there are other components more like an iPhone 16 Pro. Like most of the apps in the macOS, you install by double-clicking the DMG file and then clicking and dragging, in this case the Blender, into the Applications folder. You can then click here in Applications and you'll see Blender, or you go to the bottom of your screen to the left side, click Apps, and then you'll find Blender. We are now going to test a few demo files from blender.org. So for the Blender 3.5 splash screen, we are activating now the viewport shading, just to see how long it takes. Now Cycle starts to do its magic, it's calculating the samples, and so far so good. Checking now the activity monitor, we've done already almost 2 GB of swap. Memory used almost 7 GB out of 8 GB. Now I'll go back to the solid shading view and we are going to test the rendering times. The first time will take longer because it needs to run the kernels. So the first pass rendered in 2 minutes and 47 seconds. For the second pass, using the optimized kernels, it did it almost 32 seconds. Meanwhile, the M4 Air did in 19.5 seconds. Now let's be honest, you can wait 10 more seconds, right? Now I'm checking how fluid it is to just navigate the viewport. It's quite smooth, no problems at all. I'm now jumping into edit mode, grabbing some faces, moving around. Everything is smooth, responsive, no problems. Let's push things a little bit further. I will increase the subdivision count to 4, apply, and then we'll have a lot more polygons. And here is where the fun begins. Let's go for the sculpting mode. And again, buttery smooth. Look at that. Now I increase the subdivision again, we have 4 million triangles. And it simply ignores the fact that we have a 1 million triangles mesh. It is buttery smooth. Now, trying some cloth simulation is where it shows its weakness. But come on, it is a heavy processing feature. Time to check again our memory usage, and we have almost 6 gigabytes of memory being used and did a little bit of swap, 3.8 gigabytes. Not bad. And this is the performance you can expect when working on a 4 million triangle scene running in the shading view. Heavy scenes like the junk shop failed on the GPU due to the 8 GB RAM limit, requiring a much lower CPU render. The Macbook Neo rendered using CPU in 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Meanwhile, the M4 Air, also using CPU, rendered in 1 minute and 28 seconds while recording the video, so it's indeed much faster than the Neo, but it costs the double. The big question, can you wait 3 more minutes to render one scene? Or today's video is sponsored by the Nano Banana Blender add-on. It allows you to create extremely simple shapes and render them in extremely complex ways. Like a brown cube that turns into a brownie with ice cream, or a simple juice can without a label that becomes a completely finished image. Or you can download a ready-made 3D mesh and ask it to render your way with your brand. All of this using the power of artificial intelligence rendering there at Google, not on your computer. Link in the description. Testing now how responsive is the viewport, and well, we could go in the shading view while in Blender and it didn't crash. So it couldn't render because it was using too much memory, but inside Blender we can visualize it. Now have the Fox splash screen. The render engine is Eevee. We have here 6 million triangles in this scene. Now let's compare the speed with the M4 Air. On the left side you have the MacBook Air, on the right side the MacBook Neo. And here we have the M4 Air showing already the image and the colored version, while the Neo is a little bit lagging behind, but not too far, and now we have both completely rendered. And for the rendering times, I'm surprised the MacBook Neo rendered in 26 seconds and the M4 Air in 22 seconds. And for the viewport playback speed, the M4 Air is playing at 7 frames per second, while the Neo is playing at 4.5 frames per second. Now let's face the truth. Blender rendered this complex scene in 1 minute and 20 seconds. It worked, it rendered. Can you wait 1 minute and 20 seconds to have your render? Then Neo is for you. If not, you can invest more and upgrade for the M5. The M5 Pro actually rendered in 18 seconds, but it costs $2,500. If you want to pay more, you can go for the M5 Max that rendered in 12 seconds and costs more than 4 grand. So, do you want to do it in 12 seconds and pay 4,000? Or do you want to wait 1 minute and 20 seconds and pay 600? Cruel question, huh? How is your pocket doing? I didn't do an extensive test for the Logic Pro. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do a special video for Logic Pro performance. MIDI controllers work plug and play via USB hubs, no problem at all. I managed to run around 40 tracks with virtual instruments in an active reverb without any audio pops or stutters. Of course, 8 GB of RAM is insufficient for massive orchestral libraries, but it's plenty for small productions. Now in Final Cut Pro, I downloaded this 4K footage from Pixabay just for testing. So it's not actually buttery smooth, especially when I move the timeline between the clips. I didn't have any issue while editing or color grading or even automatic color grading. Playback felt smooth, without stutters, without dropped frames, so overall experience is quite good. I installed OBS so you can check the webcam quality. Here with Studio Lights my skin looks quite shiny. Now we are comparing the MacBook Neo webcam with the MacBook M5 Pro webcam. And despite the fact that I indeed have more highlights, my skin tones look more accurate. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Let's talk about battery life. Since I opened the MacBook Neo till I finished all the tests, including Blender, rendering, etc., it took me around 1 hour 50 minutes of raw material. Most budget laptops lose significant performance when unplugged or die within a short rendering session. The fact that the Neo maintained its speed through a nearly 2-hour professional recording session testing Blender, Davinci and so on, it's actually the real pro feature here. It proves that this isn't just a machine for browsing. It's a portable studio that respects your electricity bill. But here's the real deal. How many hours can you manage with your Windows machine? Unplugged. Now let's talk about something most people ignore. Ports. On the Mac Neo you'll find a slow USB 2, 480 megabits per second. This is the one I recommend to plug your charging cable. And the fast one, at least a faster one, USB 3, that's still 10 gigabits per second. And this is fast enough for most of your needs. But the beauty is that this machine is smart enough to let you know if you are connecting something that should be fast in a slow port. Let's talk about the keyboard. Well, some people say, wow, it's so beautiful, you know, every color has some tint on the keys. So the keys are not white, they have a little bit tint according to the color that you chose for your MacBook. Honestly, the citrus color looked like I have an aged keyboard. Like I had the old, very, very old Mac keyboard. It was gray with white keys and the cable got yellow with the time. And it's the same color. It took around 63 seconds to transfer 65.24 gigabytes from the external SSD to the internal one. So it's well aligned with the port speed. This video was edited on the MacBook M5 Pro with all the things that I wanted to put, all the effects, all the sounds, all the AI audio background removal things and so on. And then I imported into the MacBook Neo the same project and it played. It worked like smoothly. Of course, not in full resolution. I needed to put resolution to half, but it works. So what's the problem? You have a small screen in the way. You don't need to see 4K when you are editing. It's quite impressive for a small machine and so cheap. So it's quite capable for you to do real work. This machine is literally an iPhone 16 Pro with keyboard, bigger screen, with one caveat. It runs Mac OS and iOS apps. When I came here to record this video, I was thinking, okay, this is just an entry-level machine for the people who are going to browse, like do basic stuff, only 8 gigabytes of RAM. I would never ever expect video editing, Blender rendering. I was quite surprised. So this might be your first machine if you are willing to learn Blender, to start with video editing and maybe not even start, like work with. And on top of all this power, in this small and cheap case, you can also use this machine as a secondary monitor for your other Mac. So if you have a Mac Mini, you can use this machine as a secondary monitor. Or you have another MacBook, you can use this machine as a secondary monitor. So at the end, it's more powerful, more useful than most of the people think. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments. And now it's the time for your like and subscribe here. And if you are curious about the Nano Banana Blender add-on, you'll find the link in the description together with other affiliate links if you decide to buy the MacBook Neo for yourself. Thanks for watching, and I see you on the next video.